Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting on Monday, August 5th, 2024. Call the meeting to order at 6 p.m. Beth, could you do the roll call, please?
Select Chair, Mr. DeRoche.
Here.
Select Vice Chair, Mr. Coy.
Here.
Selectman Mr. Gifford.
Here.
Selectwoman Ms. Costa.
Here.
Selectman Mr. Britton.
Here.
And please note for the record, we have Town Manager Mr. Colby. Also joining us this evening, we have Police Chief Santoro, and we have Mr. Vinton, Library Director.
Okay, great. Please rise for the pledge. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up we have public comment. Before we get started with public comment, I just want to read our existing procedure and policy around public comment. This is in Section D of our Board of Selectmen procedures and policies. This will be paragraph 4. Public has a right to attend Board of Selectmen's meetings except under certain exemptions for non-public sessions as outlined in statute. Members of the public at meetings wishing to speak can only do so if recognized by the chair, and the chair may place limits on the timing of public comment along with the length of time. 2 to 3 minutes per speaker is considered appropriate. Public input should be directed to the board as a whole, not to individual board members. Content of input should be limited to current agenda items. Members of the public who would like to address the board regarding an issue not on the agenda should make an appointment with the town manager to be on the agenda for a future meeting. Such appointments are subject to approval of the majority vote of the chair, vice chair, and the town manager, and must be made by 12 p.m. the Thursday prior to any given meeting. So is there anyone from public comment that wish to address the board? Please state your name and your address. And
Nolan Pelletier, 24 North Avenue. I'm here today to address the adoption of the new policy. I think this should be tabled. I think this should be reviewed. I do agree that there needs to be revision within the policy. I watched the meeting. I watched it live. I unfortunately was unable to attend last week. I saw that there was definitely some feathers ruffled on the board. I think I don't think it's being done intentionally. I think some of us, and myself included, have questions, and limiting it to 2 minutes at the beginning of the meeting is very difficult because I personally have questions when things come up during the meeting. There's certain things that I feel are not being asked by the board, and being able to address those is crucial. And that needs to be done in a timely manner. So I think that getting all that input in one session is actually the issue. If it was revised in a different way where these were items or actionable items and people could ask questions on those things as they're being introduced, I think that would be beneficial. I still think there should be some kind of ordinance or rules that dictate how that is, but I think that what you're putting forward is not going to solve that problem. I think it's going to actually create more of a problem. It's going to create a division between people that want to come here and make a difference, and anyone that's willing to come here and speak, or anyone that's willing to come here and sit here for the whole meeting to ask questions, that means they care. It doesn't mean that you have to agree. It means they care. So I asked the board to table this. Maybe we can put some input in and make it so it's beneficial to everyone. Thank you for your time.
all right, thank you.
Hello, Ryan Lebrecht, 174 Main Street. I want to comment on the revisions that the town would like to make to the rules of engagement and police presence in the meeting.
Can you just speak up a little bit? I'm old
Sure.
and I don't hear much.
No problem. Is that better?
That's better, thanks.
Never know how far to be from this. This is timed to 3 minutes, so I'll get started. So my recent involvement with the town management started roughly a year ago when I met with the town manager, as he indicated last week. I had many questions regarding the prime wetlands notice the town had mailed to my home. Town manager deflected my questions to legal counsel and wasn't really fully aware of the situation either, and there was no follow-up on any of my questions that were supposed to be deflected to legal counsel. I found this extremely frustrating as this directly impacted our property. And since then, I have not met with the town manager again, as was clear in my first meeting with him that he did not have the answers that I needed, nor does currently. This is why I've approached the Board of Selectmen for answers to my questions instead. Before coming to my first board meeting this year, I emailed the town manager with questions about town contracts, and the response I got was that RSA 91A does not require staff to explain processes or answer questions. So I attended the BOS meeting where I was told I could not speak during the meeting except during open public comment the following month, or at the beginning of the meeting before I knew what would be said by the board at the meeting. Adding to my frustration, I again emailed the town manager on 6/17 in regards to properties deeded to the town. No response was received. Follow-up emails were sent on 7/8 and 7/23. To date, I have received no response to said question. So if our TM will not respond to my questions, I thought maybe the BOS would be of help. Clearly, as of last week, that's not the case. I was told to wait a month to comment at the BOS meeting from the previous month, when at that point it no longer matters, as the board has already voted on matters and the votes are done. So our public comment is in arrears and does not matter. Then I was told at the next BOS meeting I was not allowed to ask questions. I need to make appointments with the town manager or the BOS. Already tried doing the town manager route. In trying to get answers, it was suggested that a police officer remove me from the building, which is ridiculous. Now your new rules further restrict the public from voicing our thoughts and opinions. So to the fellow residents of Plastow, how do we ask questions and receive answers from our town manager and BOS? It appears we aren't allowed to and are supposed to be blind followers. This reminds me of a quote from George Washington. Quote, "For if men are to be precluded from offering their sentiments on a matter, the freedom of speech may be taken away, and dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to the slaughter." Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone else? Okay, moving on. I will say if there's any questions that anyone has, you can please leave them with us and leave them with the town manager, and we will do our best to get answers for you. The selectmen are available. You can email us. You can set up appointments. We are going to set up a monthly open hours where folks can come in. We'll be announcing that later tonight. It will be the second Saturday of every month for an hour. So it'll be a rotating schedule. There'll be different selectmen there. So we'll be talking about that later. So, but again, if folks have questions, you can come here to comment, but the questions won't be answered here. You can submit them through email to the selectman or the town manager, and we'll get back to you. So, thank you. So moving on for the agenda, we have the police department update. We have Chief Santoro here to give us our update. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. I have two brief presentations, and that's the reason for my presence, my fellow officers' presence as well, as Sergeant Steve DeHulu, who will assist me on my second presentation, and Officer Vivek is a trainee, so we're here for presentation purposes. See if we load these up. We left you copies in front of you of the two presentations. The first one will be the state of the department. Since my past 14 years of being here, I was asked to provide a brief summary of where we're at and where some of our accomplishments have been, so that's what I've done. The copies are a little dark because although we selected to print in black and white, they printed in grayscale. But here they are for you and for everyone at home to see. First one I want to go over, the first slide I have for you is personnel. And again, without the support of you folks here, we wouldn't be in the position we're at. Since when I did come here, we were short staffed in various positions, both in supervisory positions, police officer positions, dispatcher positions, and support staff positions. And over the past 14 months, we were able to fill almost every one of those positions, which I'll talk about, and working towards filling the rest. On the communication side, for dispatchers, since I've been here, we've hired one full-time dispatcher. We've hired one part-time dispatcher that has taken up a large amount of workload and overtime from the dispatchers that were there previously. Is making for better working conditions. Still being short one full-time and one part-time position. There is still overtime shifts that are coming up, both mandatory, forced, and voluntary. But that has gotten better. We're in the process now of, I believe we set up today an interview for next week for for the last vacant full-time position. Also within the communications department, not only hiring, we moved up, not necessarily promoted, but awarded the certification or the title of communications specialist to two of our veteran dispatchers that were here with us. That would be Jalen Knight and Diane Zarnecki will both move from dispatcher to communications specialists. That's sort of marking them and notating them that the fact that they've have the commitment to be dispatchers, they've shown the progress, they've moved up in seniority there, and have taken on extra responsibilities. So those are the two there. So not only are we hiring, we're promoting, and we're training our staff, both police, sworn, and civilian staff. That's on the communication side. And on the police side, again, we were short many police officers upon me coming here. We've filled 6 full-time police officer positions. Here, again, Christian Ravecki, one here in the back of the room, was just sworn in a few weeks in front of you folks. So we're full there, except we've got permission to create 1 lieutenant position, which we'll be filling in the fall. And in turn, if it's all done internally, that will create 1 more full-time position. Also within the police side, one of our officers, Detective Simone, has been designated as an MPO, which stands for Master Police Officer. Again, it's not a promotion. It's a title and a responsibility and showing a noteworthiness of someone's commitment and dedication to the department, the seniority and their knowledge of and skills and ability. Also, a few months ago, as you recall, we promoted 2 patrol officers to sergeants. One of them being Sergeant DeHulu, who's in the back of the room, will help me with my next presentation. And we've filled those 2 positions. We were vacant for almost a year. We had Sergeant Garney, who was forced retired on a medical, and then voluntarily retired with Sergeant Porter. Both have left. It took us about a year to fill those positions until we had to get our staffing levels up to where they needed to be before we promoted. So we're at a really good point right now. We have supervisors in all our shifts, and it's really been beneficial for the department to have that available to our officers. And as I mentioned, we have 1 lieutenant position that we created, and we're in the process of filling that this fall. As you may have noticed, we put out a press release about a week ago. Now that we're up to staff, we're able to designate one of our police officers to be a school resource officer, Officer Eric McDonald, who transferred over for us from Atkinson earlier this year or late last year, is now going to be our SRO starting the last week of August. He'll go through about a week of introduction to the school system over there, although he's familiar with it already, but he'll meet the administrators and some of the faculty and staff over there and get familiar with the layout of the schools in his office. And then school starts up right in that first week of September, and he'll be up and running by then.
That's great.
Yeah, that's a really great fill. As you know, we've been filling that position when able to with a detail officer for half of last year, and now we have a committed officer to be there every day of his school year.
Excellent.
We're going to build some great bonds and relationships. We have some cool projects that we're going to be working on, initiatives involving the school and different programs, but I don't want to get ahead of myself on that. There'll be another talk we'll have later on down the line. And then this will be the second presentation, but just to let you know, we're also reinstituting our canine program, where a selection process is underway, and our funding source, which we'll be talking about momentarily. So that's a really good program. I think it's been, such how long it's been since we've had a canine? Over 2 years? It's about 2 years since our last canine dog had passed away due to medical reasons, and the position wasn't filled, or the dog position wasn't filled, and then the handler, again, retired last summer. So we have that undergoing. Any questions on the personnel before I move on to my next slide?
Just one, and
Sir?
somebody may have told me at one point, but I just honestly don't remember. The SRO,
Yes.
who pays for that? Does the school system pay for it?
Yes. They're billed on a day-by-day per diem, if you will, is the right term, basis. So if it's only a 4-day school week, they're only getting charged for 4 days. The officer will be at the school. That 5th day, that officer will assign back to the police department. That officer will, in this case him, Officer McDonald, will work in patrol or another duties or assignment, but they're billed on a day-by-day basis only while they're there.
And if for some reason they can't go, is it backfilled by another department at all?
That's not currently that's not how it's happened in the past.
Okay.
That's something we may look at in the future. But if that's someone calling out sick, it would be tough to fill sort of a last minute basis. But that
Okay.
is something we can look at down the line. But I think for that 1 or 2 days that someone's out sick or in a training, perhaps we just cover it by the shift. But
Okay.
that's something we can look at.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
And so with the full-time officers and the promotions, are we fully staffed at this point?
For police side, we're technically fully staffed other than the newly created lieutenant position,
Okay.
which again, if we fill it internally, which is our hopes and our plans, then the chain will work its way up. A sergeant would go to lieutenant, a patrolman would go to sergeant, and then that patrolman position would be open. We need to fill it.
Okay. Thank you.
So we're slotted for 19 sworn officers. We have 18 sworn. So when I started, it was 18. We filled the 18, but now we have the newly created position.
Thank you.
Okay, on the equipment slide that I have up now is we talk about some repairs and replacement that has currently either has been done or is in a process or will be done in the future. The radio system had lots and lots of problems. I mentioned that during the budget process last year and perhaps in other presentations, again, without going much into detail. There was a lot of problems and issues with our radio infrastructure, which of course is one of the most important things for not only our offices. If you recall, we dispatched police and fire for both Plastow and Atkinson, police, fire, EMS, emergency management. So we need to have a radio system for the officers and the members and the firefighters for everybody to communicate. Our radio system has a lot of problems and a lot of issues. We've put a lot of Band-Aids on it in the past 14 months, and we have a proposal going forward. We've been working with Motorola, which is a radio company, and a local vendor from Motorola to do some repairs, replacement, and a huge infrastructure rebuild or increase in our system. Matter of fact, we had a meeting this afternoon around 2:30 today to talk about what the plans are, and we continuously meet on that. And there's a big proposal will be coming forward on that. We've applied for some grant funding on that. It's about just under $4 million project in all, and we applied for $1 million out of $4 million for the project. This is almost a complete radio infrastructure increase, repair, and improvement that is including some of the equipment and supplies that we already have. Yes, sir.
So it's 4 million to replace, to kind of replace the whole thing? Is that what kind
So
of?
currently we have, and I'm not the technical person on it, we have 3 towers. Each tower has a repeater on it. To be able to effectively communicate with our 2 communities through all these building and infrastructure that's going on, we need to add 3 additional towers in Atkinson and in Plastow to be able to reach inside the buildings. Currently now, when our offices go inside the schools, inside Walmart, Home Depot, any of the big box stores, our radio system doesn't work. There's so much electronics, so much steel, concrete, and believe it or not, LED lowers the ceiling on radio frequencies, which creates a very small bandwidth to be able to sneak our signal through. to be able to get into the places. And over the course of growing, not just Plastow, but everybody, electronic signboards, billboards, lights, cell phones, everything really narrows that band down against what I was told by the professionals. And we can't get through. And we can't penetrate through the school. We can't penetrate. So God forbid something happens in a school, our radio communication is very poor within the schools.
But the estimate now is about 4 million. Hopefully you get $1 million in the grant. Anything from Atkinson at all to help on it?
We have a lot of plans going forward, getting money from Atkinson if possible, getting some other grants out there that we're going to be looking at, capital improvement project, rebates and discounts from Motorola, and perhaps looking at another vendor.
And what time frame are you looking at on this project?
The unfortunate thing, due to supply chain issues, workforce issues, in general, other projects ahead of us, the grant money of the $1 million probably won't be in our hand for a year.
Okay.
Once we're able to execute and say place the order, it's about an 18-month project to get the equipment in hand and the infrastructure built. We're talking anywhere from digging up dirt to placing cement pads, putting a structure on there and building a 200-foot or whatever it is antenna, installing all the equipment on it and getting all the signals connected.
There'll be a whole proposal.
There'll be a whole
See
proposal.
on that. And is fire involved in this as well?
Yes, actually, Chief Knudsen wrote the grant in joint cooperation with me. We submitted it to Sheehan's office.
One of the things we might want to consider, you might want to bring to your planning board too, is when new buildings go in town. I know like in Boston, when we're building a building, they put a repeater in the building so that when the signal isn't good, it's able to get out to the system. So it's not a terrible expense, but it's something that we may want to insist upon on new buildings going forward.
So I could get the text in here to bore you to death with all the terminology, but it's called a BDA, bidirectional antenna. That's a device. They cost between $100,000 and $150,000. The fire code says that the fire chief could make them required to put them inside a building, but that's a one-time expense of putting that in there. There's other ways to readjust that money. And again, I don't want to speak on behalf of the fire chief. Instead of saying, hey, instead of spending $150,000 on this BDA, which is just going to help you, perhaps we put that money towards something else and putting it into the infrastructure of the radio system. And in turn, then you don't need to do the updates and upgrades, the maintenance to those devices, the testing of those devices every month. Or every year. So again, they buy a BDA for $150,000, Walmart does, then there's going to be ongoing costs. We may propose to them, take that money, reroute it into the infrastructure of the radio system that not only helps them, helps reduce their costs later on, but then helps the community and their neighbors as well.
Well, one other suggestion I'm going to have is to bring this to the CIP because I'm not sure this is going to be something we'll be able to put together in 18 months.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a good cookie recipe, and we're thinking about having
Yeah.
a bake sale to raise some of the other money. But yeah,
Lemonade stand out.
lemonade stand, all of it. But yes, we understand that, but the other side of it is having no radio communications. It is failing. It fails on a regular basis. We put a lot of Band-Aids on the system now.
Right.
And it's going to be the day that somebody's calling for assistance, particularly the fire department has a difficulty when they're calling out for our additional apparatus and help, and they can't get through.
And we did get notification from the congressionally direct spending that, the grant is going to the next stage. But it also does not preclude us from applying for next year for another $1 million towards this project as well. There's other communities that have done that, through this process where they go back and, to build it up. So that is also, on the table as well, is it's not just a one-time grant. We're going to ask for more on top next year as well.
So today's conversation was, if we get that $1 million, what is phase one? What does $1 million get us? And then what phase two and phase three?
Is there a time frame on the grant that it has to be used and spent by a certain time? Or can you get the grant and say it doesn't get used for, say, 3-4 years? And at that time, would we physically have the money where we could at least be making interest on it?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't believe they're not going to give us $1 million up front.
I'm just,
Yeah,
gotta
it'll
ask
be
it.
it'll be reimbursement based.
They gotta ask it.
But it's the federal government, and we know the wheels sometimes turn a little bit slower, so.
And they're not excited about you using money to make money.
Right, no, but I gotta ask the question, right? It's.
Being in the
Put 20
technology
out.
field, you know that equipment outdates and stops working and is no longer repairable.
Right.
And that's what we're coming up against with some of the stuff. So we're looking at phase one. What does that $1 million get us in phase one to get us to phase two?
Yeah, then we'll wanna know like what the life expectancy is and all of that.
Yeah.
Cause I know how the technology field works.
Exactly. That's what I'm
well aware
saying.
of it.
You know, so there's going to be the point that we can no longer upgrade and update something, and then it just then fails that way. Never mind getting the signal through the building. It's just no longer
Yeah, it won't
longer
be
upgradable.
supported anymore.
Are there any opportunities with the existing tower fund that we have to utilize some of those funds?
I'd have to look back to see what it was when it was established.
I know it's to maintain the existing tower, but if we're looking at establishing a new tower somewhere, is there a possibility to move the cell towers that are there over to a new tower and use those funds to
And
help
there's
establish
also
a new
restrictions
tower?
of what signals you can put on adjoining towers that won't interfere with one another. Again, way over
Right.
my head.
Okay.
Chief, what's the biggest communication problem you have? Is it out of town or in town?
Both. It's, again, in town, we can't penetrate through the school walls. In
Okay.
certain parts of the school, we can't get through. So we're looking, one of the Band-Aids is putting a temporary fix inside the building, sort of one of those idea of a BDA, but a
Okay.
modified BDA to be able to get through, to keep the officer and everybody who works in the school safe. And so I know cell phones, as soon as you walk past the cash registers at Walmart, even cell phone reception, so backup communication would be a cell phone. Cell phones don't work past the registers and once you get into Walmart.
Okay.
So then the other towns, again, Atkinson's having difficulty communication, particularly Atkinson Fire is having problems with their fire department communicating. We own the frequencies, we own a lot of the infrastructure.
Okay.
Next bullet item is a video system, the camera system that was inside the PD, the server, again, being an IT person, Mr. Coy, the server was 7+ years old. It couldn't handle the cameras and the technology of the cameras. We put in 2 new monitors, a video card in the computer, couldn't handle that. So we had to buy a new server or PC unit to run that. Again, it runs 33 cameras in the PD. Half of them didn't work just because the server or PC couldn't handle it. Switched that out, all cameras are working now. Didn't have to replace the cameras. And of course, police cruisers is a comparison photo of currently our what we were using for cruisers. We have a variety of cruisers from marked to unmarked, Chargers, Explorers, and our newest acquisitions, the Chevy Tahoes, what you see on the right side of the picture there. And we had aging fleet. We have 2 cruisers currently on the road. Matter of fact, one of them are maybe out tonight, both over 104,000 miles. We talked about the budget meeting. That's unacceptable for officers responding to emergency calls with police cruisers over 100,000 miles on them. It's dangerous for the officers. It's dangerous for those we're going to help. So we've replaced cruisers that have been aging. One of them we sent out to auction and got some money for that. Another one we repurposed over to Town Hall Annex, and I think a variety of departments are using that. Again, since it's not being pushed 24/7, 365 like a line car would be, it's safe and adequate to be able to use on an administratively Monday through Friday with someone from inspectional services, building inspectors, and such. So we're not just getting rid of cars; we're repurposing those ones we can save. Those ones we can't save, we send off to auction and get whatever money we can for those.
Do you still have trucks? I haven't seen any. Are the trucks still in service?
We have pickup trucks, yes.
Are we still keeping those online?
Currently, we have 3 pickup trucks. One of them is on administration. The other 2 is specifically designated for detail assignments, paid for the detail fund. There is a plan for replenishment because, as you'll see on the next column over, we've replaced 2 cars. We're proposing 3 more cars are replaced, and we're going to be moving some cars around and repurposing them to get the most use out of them, to make sure we're getting the right lifespan out of the vehicles as well, and moving cars from patrol to detail to admin and around. Telephone system, when I got here, we had two different telephone systems that did not talk to each other. So if you called in on one telephone line and you needed to get to somebody who's on the other phone system, you couldn't transfer them until you'd have to hang up and call back. So that was very problematic. We have a 911 system, a business line, a police line, and other lines. We've consolidated that. We got a great new phone system in. We got rid of 2 phone systems, narrowed down to 1. It's a pretty good phone system, and it was a money-saving, cost-saving feature, so much so that the town looked at it and replaced the phones throughout the town as well with a similar system. It was a cost savings to the town. And we're able to all transfer calls around to one another and not lose people who need help and services. That was disastrous. That was one of the first things they told me in dispatch that needed to be addressed, because the phone systems didn't talk to each other. We replaced the radar speed board again by allocation of funds from you folks here at the Board of Selectmen. We took a 16-year-old or plus radar system, speed board system that no longer worked, replaced with a modern high-tech device, half the size and literally half the money. So you bought the one 15 plus years ago, or maybe even more, maybe 20 years ago for $16,000. We bought this new one for $8,000. So to replace it, you would think would double our costs. Actually, we cut our costs in half.
Is that the one that's out here on Main Street?
Yes.
Across from Pollard?
Correct.
How many do we have now?
We have one.
Just the one?
Speed trailers, but there's other signs that accomplish
Correct.
similar, but not exactly.
The actual trailer that we trail around on wheels and move around from place to place, much easily done by officers on patrol, to be able to move that, hooking up to the back one of the SUVs or pickups. There's others. There's 2 permanent mount ones, signs, as you know, on Main Street, one at the Westville, one at the on one end and one over near the library. And then we have the ones that we can move around. The DPW moves for us that are solar powered, and we move those to various locations. Again, that's not as easy to move around. It requires Danny and his crew to take those off and remount them to the specifications. And then the intercom system that was in the police and fire side did not work. So people would come to the lobby, ring the buzzer for assistance or to talk to us. That was completely failed, and we replaced that by integrating it with our telephone system. Again, some of the stuff was at no additional cost. Uniforms, when I showed up here day one, including myself, I had a different uniform than everybody else had on because there was no consistency in uniforms here. If you had a roll call with 5 officers, you'd probably have 5 different uniforms on there. One had 1 badge, one had 1 pants, one had this. For consistency and uniformity reasons, and to make it streamlined and to be able to more workable for our officers, we've come up with new Class B uniforms. These 2 fine gentlemen are modeling here tonight in front of you. The newest and latest and greatest shop-dressed officers for our Class B uniforms for working every day. And myself, I'm wearing the summer Class A uniform for more administrative and professional events. So we've done that. I guess at one point the officers was given $1,000 and say, go buy whatever you want. And somebody wore BDUs, somebody wore uniform pants, somebody wore short sleeves, somebody wore a long sleeve, which just complete no uniformity to the uniforms. So we took care of that in both the police officers and the dispatchers. The dispatchers had a variety of clothing, and we replaced their uniforms as well. More professional, better esprit de corps, better for morale. And some of the community outreach programs we've been working on. If you list there, we've been having coffee with a cop events, ice cream socials, car seat checkpoints. We have 2 officers that are now certified car seat technicians. We're participating in 2 touch a truck programs over the past year. We involved the senior fair, scam and fraud presentations at the library with CAB's crew over there. We've gone on field trips with the recreation department, participated in home day. We've hosted the Cub Scouts, the PED, gave them tours, did fingerprinting with them and talked to them about crime scene investigations. We've helped out at the Elder Affairs Barbecue this summer, and we just hosted a bike rodeo, or helped host a bike rodeo over with CAB's crew at the library. Those are just some of the things we've been doing for the past 14 months. There's more to come.
Oh, those are good to see.
Training, again, I said to you earlier, we're here to hire folks, promote folks, and to train them to the appropriate levels where they need to be. We've updated the medical training for our police personnel. There'll be more going on this fall. Updated firearms training. Our officers are attending FBI leader programs to help make those are for supervisors, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, and chief, to get them at the executive level, command decision making, and how to be better leaders for the subordinates. And we had 2 officers just attend training last week, and that will continually go on. Our communications folks, dispatchers have been going through communications training, officers going to field training, car technician school, PT instructors. 2 sergeants are slated to go to first line instructor school this fall in September. They'll be going down to Roger Williams University down in Rhode Island. They'll be spending 2 weeks down there learning how to be first line supervisors. We've done that in the past. It's great feedback from that program. And by the end of the week, we hope all our personnel, both full-time and part-time, will be NIMS and ICS trained, incident management systems and incident command systems. So we meet the Homeland Security guidelines, recommendations, and requirements. So we can apply for grants. And if, God forbid, a national disaster or local disaster happens, we're able to implement the NIMS and ICS structure on how to respond to those situations. All stuff that was lacking. Grants. We've had several grants that we've applied for. Those being highway safety grants has brought the department various equipment and training, including mobile computing, which you see here in front of you. All of our line cards, our 6 line cards are equipped with MDTs. Those are computers that officers are able to write reports, pull up license status checks, communicate with others, and do a variety of other things, including e-ticketing. So we've got money from the highway safety on that. I believe it's a 75% return on buying that equipment. Radar units, you've asked earlier about how many speed trailers. We just got the notification that we're eligible for grant to fund, again, gets 50 to 75% of the cost for more radar units, both trailers, solar mounted like we have, and handheld ones, and also ones mounted in our police cars. So this great state of New Hampshire has given a lot of money back to us to be able to equip our officers to effectively do their job, to respond to things of complaints of speeding, help in efficiency, and cut down on time on motor vehicle stops by doing the computing and ticketing right in the car. And you can see way down the bottom, we just installed those thermal printers. The officers were able to write the tickets out right there and issue them out to the offenders. Again, most all that reimbursement is coming back at 75% from the state. I mentioned about the radio system as well for the $1 million that it's pending. We're also looking at COPS hiring grant to add an additional person to the department. It's a 3-year program at a 75% match. We're looking at that. The K-9 program, which I'll talk about in a moment. And we've already received some grant funding back for accreditation. We've signed up to be an accredited police agency, which is we talked about in the past about standardizing levels of policies and procedures in the way we operate as a police agency in the state of New Hampshire based on some national guidelines. We've signed up for that. We're undergoing that process now, and we've already received 1 grant, and here it is here. We've received a grant back of our application fee of $750. We're looking for the next grant to come in at $550 to pay for some of the software, and there should be more money coming down the line.
What? You get a 75% grant for hiring a new police officer.
Yes.
You've got a full house now.
Yes.
Why would you want to hire another one?
So there are specific grants that of specific positions. So this is creating an additional specialty position. There's 7 categories of what this officer can do, and I don't believe patrol is any of them. What we're looking at is creating a full-time community outreach person to do a lot of stuff that's going on. Like right now, a lot of stuff is we're either paying an officer overtime or pulling an officer from the shift to come over and attend an event and do something. This would be a created position. Again, there's 7 categories. And it's not, you can't fund a already funded position. It has to be an additional position. At the end of the 3 years, then the money runs out. And by then you would assume someone has left, and then you can put that person into the rotation.
Okay, so it's a permanent position, or it's not a permanent position? A 3-year contract essentially, and then if you've got a full house still, you don't need that position?
It's highly unlikely they would have a full house with retirements coming, but yes.
Okay.
Again, every grant's a little bit different.
Okay.
And a little bit of wording. Again, this is one of the grants that says there's only one of these 7 categories. It's usually a lot of grants are out there to replace someone you lost through the layoffs or retirements.
Right.
And this particular one we're looking at, you can't do that.
I gotcha. Okay. I'd have some concerns with that, and I'll talk to you later about them, but one of the concerns I have is that if we only have to pay the 25%, but after the 3 years, we have to pay 100%.
Right.
And if we have somebody retiring, like you said, then that's a hole that's filled, and it doesn't make a difference.
Well, then, once a grant is out, then you can use it to fill the hole.
Okay, all right.
And would they assume that still doing the community outreach type position? Or would they fill that position as a patrol officer or?
Once you fill the requirements of the grant, your obligation's over.
Okay.
But you would hope by then another grant would come out, which what they've been doing, there's no guarantee, but the grants have been coming out. One year it's to replace and backfill, the next year it's to add or to create a special position.
And what do you see the community outreach officer doing? Like, do you see them full-time doing community outreach?
Yes,
Like what?
all that stuff that was listed on our other previous slide, creating programs, educational programs,
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
working
DARE?
with the SRO as well, working with the senior center, working with the library,
Okay.
working with businesses, house of worship. There's a lot of house of worship grants going on out there. We have, I think, 7 we classified as house of worship. So in this community that could get some of those house of worship grants, but we don't have an officer to be able to work on all that stuff with them. Business outreach, community outreach, service groups, Lions Club, Kiwanis Clubs, others, yeah.
So you have a more defined proposal around that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And as I said in my swearing in, all this wouldn't have been possible without the help of others, that no one succeeds alone. There's lots of people to thank for this, including the officers you see in the slide there, folks of the DPW, businesses, the voters, and the town itself. So, you recognize that guy up in the front unloader? I wish he was here tonight. Any questions in the presentation?
I just have to say, you've done a great job so far. You've done a lot in 14 months, so.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank
Doesn't
you.
seem like 14 months.
Time flies when you're having fun, Darren.
Would you like me to point out each gray hair? With
Don't
a-
see any.
You're talking to the wrong guy about gray hairs.
All right, so my next presentation, the sergeant come over and sit next to me so I can easily ask him some questions, is the K-9 reinstituting the K-9 program in a unit within the town of Plastow. It's been a long-standing program the town has had. Sergeant Porter, when he was here, Steve, how many K-9s did he have over the years? 5 K-9s over his 36 years here.
I knew it was a few, I didn't realize 5.
I think it was 5. It was at least 4.
I was on the first board that got a K-9 unit. And the dog almost took my arm off. He almost got a no vote.
Dog's a good judge of character.
Yeah.
All right, going on to my presentation, and I'll just interrupt that. So some of the aspects we'll talk about is the costs, the grants, the fundraising, and utilization of the K-9. And the utilization would be for various things, including patrol. So in patrol, first off, a dog, once you bring a dog on, they're fully trained. They're dual-purpose dogs. One of the first purpose, the primary purpose, is patrol. And in patrol, the dog's used for, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, apprehension, tracking, canine deterrent, a second partner out on the street, which you'll see in a video in a moment, and various things in patrol. The second purpose of a dog is the dual purpose, is what type of detection the dog will serve. And there's a variety of topics. You can train a dog to be a narcotics detection dog, a bomb explosives, firearms, and there's other categories, particularly, but mostly most of the dogs are drug or bomb sniffing dogs. So that's what we call dual purpose dogs. Not only do dogs work in patrol, the dogs also get involved with the community events in town, including Old Home Day, summer camp demonstrations. There's been other events going on, and a big help at the school department walking through the schools, working with the SRO, working with the school department to provide some, should we say, deterrence there, and some detection there, and some community resources out there, right?
Yep.
And Steve put the slides together, by the way, so I'm not taking any credit for the good work he did. It creates a stronger bond between the neighbors here and the neighboring departments to be able to assist them as well. So part of what happens when you have a canine, usually you get involved in a mutual aid agreement where, maybe Hampstead dog does patrol and explosives, our dog does patrol and drugs. So if we need someone for explosives, we call up Hampstead, they send their dog, and you work with the local communities, you work with the state police and the sheriff's department. Your dog does this, our dog does that. And there are also many events. We had that fleeing fugitive a couple months back ago who fled over on Rose Ave. We had the sheriff's department with their dog. We had Epping down with their dog, and I think there was another dog on the way to help us with that. So we work with the other departments and help, and then the canine handler would also go through training with their dog and the other dogs of the other agencies and the other handlers. So what is a police dog? I'm going to throw on this. Let's see if folks can all hear this.
What is a police dog?
A police dog is, honestly, a police dog.
What's the police dog?
That is not a question I expect you to ask me. So.
That's a good question. It's so much more complicated than what's just a police dog.
1 out of every 1,000 dogs can be a good, solid police dog.
A police dog he's an officer.
Well, it's a force multiplier, first of all.
Police dogs are second chances at doing investigations.
A police dog is a loyal, obedient, intelligent, athletic asset to their department.
There's a misconception with service dogs, especially in law enforcement, is that they're all mean, or polar opposite. Everyone thinks they're just cuddly animals. They're right in the middle.
A dog, that's to say, is a man's best friend. And when he comes in, it's just, everybody they gravitate towards him. So if you're having a bad day, if you're at a bad scene or whatever, the dog happens to come in, you kind of forget about that for a minute and you get to play with him.
When he's at home, he's just a dog. You know what I mean? He is just doing normal dog stuff.
He's got his own quirks, his own personalities, what he likes to do. So he's got more human traits than some humans I know. You know what I mean? So I'd say he's my partner.
He's a family dog, but he's also a work dog. Just like a police officer, they've just got a lot more hair and 2 more legs than us. So essentially, it's the exact same thing.
A police dog is one of those that it has to have the intensity to stay focused for a duration of time, but at the same time, be able to be one of the family as well too.
Pantera had an album once called Far Beyond Driven. That is what a police canine is.
Canines offer a whole new tool for patrol.
They're a finely tuned automobile. These dogs are well trained, and we specialize in it, and we work on it constantly.
He's like the Navy SEAL of dogs. So.
Besides being athletic and intelligent and all, they just don't quit. They have no quit in them whatsoever.
So whether it's tracking, article search, narcotics detection, bomb detection, there's just so many things that they can do, and we really need to educate.
That's what I like about this whole project. It's going to finally expose some of that to people, and maybe generate some interest for young people that are thinking about getting into law enforcement or have an interest in dogs. And you don't have to necessarily be a police officer to do service with a dog. It's just it's more specialized training. That's all it is. So I like it. I think it's a great idea.
That's a little video about what is a police dog for those who had some questions about what a dog does and how they're an asset to a police department. And so I thought Steve found a great video. I think it really hits home, answers some of the questions, and tells you a little bit about what canines are all about. So associated costs, it always comes down to to money for to run a program, whether it's a canine, an SRO, drug task force person, whatever it is, it comes down to, being able to afford and justify the existence of that. Over the years, as you heard earlier, we've always had a canine program for gone through 5 dogs over the years. So to get a program up and running, these are approximate costs. They may vary. As a little caveat is down below. There's an acquisition of a police cruiser, the upfitting of the cruiser, acquiring the canine, the training for the officer to attend a tuition, and then the having a canine kennel at the handler's home, a ballistic vest for the canine, because of course a canine, as you saw in the earlier video, is a police officer and is protected under various laws. You need to protect the dog as well as to get them a ballistic vest, because they're out there just as the officers are. And then there's miscellaneous needs, from food to vet to harnesses to chains to leashes to leads and other things. So initial startup cost, we're approximately looking at $95,000. That could be a little bit better, a little bit less. But the great thing is that on the next slide, you'll see that we've began the process and been pre-approved of a grant from the Stanton Foundation. Stanton Foundation is based out of Massachusetts. Over the course of its existence, have funded over 120 police dogs throughout New England. The average grant that they give out to us, and we spoke to them over the phone, would be adding up to initially $32,000. And of that money, of the $32,000, so we have it broken down in the next slide. No. So some of the things that the $32,000 goes to is paying for the canine itself, paying for the academy tuition, paying for the upfitting of the police officer's cruiser, paying for some of the equipment, paying for some of the food, paying for some of the vet bills, and then beyond that, while the officer is in the police canine academy with the canine, there's availability of obtaining up to $1,100 a week for backfill and overtime to pay for that officer. So if the officer's off the streets and not working to fill this position, we could, the grant will also reimburse us up to $1,100 a week to cover the absentee of the officer while he's in the academy. And then once that's all through the initial, and that gets the dog up to the first purpose of the dual purpose. That's the acquisition, the training, the vetting, the certification. Boom, when that's all done and over with, then the canine and the handler go back to academy and they learn the second purpose. We're aiming for drug detection, but whatever that second purpose is that we decide the need is for, there's up to another $4,500 worth of grant money for that as well. I've known several departments, and I think Steve has talked to a few as well, and I've talked to many who've taken advantage of the canine, the Stanton grant. Myself and Captain Mazza have met with the grant administrator several times. And it's a matter of, we filled out the application. I wrote my letter of support. Mr. Colby will be writing a letter of support on behalf of the town. It'll be submitted within the next couple of days. And it's 99.9% that we'll be getting the grant.
And with the cruiser, you say you're going to need for the canine, is that one of those 3 proposed?
That is not one of the 3 proposed. So of the money, and I'll get to that back down in a second, that's about approximately $50,000 of the $95,000 to get the program up and running. Our goal is to get the balance of that money through a variety of things. The last canine program, what year was it?
2016, I think.
In 2016, as you'll see. Yeah, on this last slide here, the last line, back in 2016, the department was able to raise through donations of private and public donations, $15,000. We were looking through a couple weeks ago, we have copies of every receipt, from kids running lemonade stands, people getting loose change out of the car, up to businesses donating money. I know there is a well-known business here in town that has offered us a lot of money to get our canine program up and running. And she said if she can't get the money, she'll go to her fellow franchisees and get the rest of the money. Again, that's verbally. I've met with her a few times. That's nothing in writing. I believe she's a woman of her word and will be providing a substantial amount of money to the program.
So what we're looking at for grants then, just so everyone knows, probably around approximately 50K, hopefully.
See if I can,
Hopefully that's what the grant will cover.
So it'll be 50,
see if I can go back on the slides.
and then donations
$45,000
would be the
will be the
difference.
balance.
That'd be the difference.
Yeah. So do you have someone in mind? Are you interviewing people for this?
So
Going
tomorrow,
to do it?
I'll be applying at least.
Sergeant DeHulu will be applying tomorrow. The announcement will go out. I've written a job, the posting. It'll go out to all members of the department, so they'll have 1 week to submit a letter of interest, a resume, and any other types of certification or anything else they want to put in for support of the position. Then from there, we'll go through an interview panel, which will include myself, Captain Mazza, and a canine handler from an adjoining agency will come over who has familiarization with the dog. They'll help interview the applicant or applicants. And then beyond that, not only will we'll then vet them here, once a handler is chosen, they will then go down and meet with the director of the Boston Police Canine Academy or their designee, and they'll go through a vetting process. These handlers in the Boston Police Canine Academy and the training as instructors there know what it takes to be a canine handler. They'll sit down, they'll conduct an interview and see if that person who applied is the right fit, putting the round peg in a round hole. You wouldn't want to put someone who doesn't really like dogs, is allergic to dogs, who doesn't have the right home environment, and so on and so forth, to handle a dog. So it's fitting the right person. Once they vet the person to be a handler and give us the okay on that, they will then match the handler with a canine specific breed, whether it be a Shepherd or a Belgian Malinois or whatever it takes, and they'll find the right canine to put with the right handler.
Is there one type of canine you're leaning towards, the Shepherd or the?
We'll really have to talk to Troy Casey's his name that runs the Boston Canine Academy and decide what's best for the town.
So there's not, so you're not leaning one way or the other then? Because I know we've had both.
Yes.
How many years we get out of a dog?
Usually it's like 5 to 7 that it's
5
on
to
the
7.
road on average. Some are a little more. Some have health issues and it's a little less.
Okay. Can't find one that's almost retired.
Yeah, apparently not.
So if the grants go through and this business owner, this could have the potential of not costing the town anything or minimal amount of money.
I would say minimal, again, going back, if we looked in 2016, that we raised $15,000 just by people dropping off checks at the PD and kids handling loose change. I think in this day and age, we should be able to raise some more money as well.
Do that, but you're constantly going to be rotating another new cruiser because you're going to have a cruiser that's set up for canine. And then as that cruiser every, 3 years rotates out, you're going to need another new cruiser.
Well,
Actually,
actually,
have a longer life too, not to speak over you, because it'll only be driven by the canine handler his 40 hours a week, as opposed to the other cruisers being driven
Okay.
24/7, 360.
Okay, that makes sense.
So it could potentially double the life expectancy maybe?
Maybe, hopefully.
again, our cars are driven 24/7, 365, right?
Yeah.
So they're, as Steve said, it'll just be driven to 40 hours.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So extends the life at you don't reuse that for other things. We don't transport prisoners with detainees inside the police car. Nobody else gets to drive it.
So we're going to be retrofitting one of our existing or buying a new?
Buying a new, it's very difficult to retrofit.
Right.
Sometimes the older cars. I will say my last apartment, we got a Comfort Canine when I left. We retrofitted a cruiser for $7,000. It lasted 2 months. It was totaled,
Right.
not by in a crash. The engine just blew and everything else fell apart.
Right.
And they spent $7,000 in a used car. It didn't last.
And how many surrounding towns around Plastow have canine?
Hampstead, and that's the only bordering town that has one, and then Danville and Salem would be the next towns out that have one.
And what are their canine specialize in?
I think that I'm pretty sure Salem has 3 dogs. 2 are patrol and narcotic, and 1 is patrol and explosive detection. And then I know that Hampstead's is narcotic, and I'm not 100% sure about Danville. I would assume narcotic. That's what most towns get the most.
That's what they
use out
usually
of.
go with.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think in my 14 months here, we've called for 4 canines.
Yep.
One was on a Maple Ave break. Another was the 2 dogs that came down for the felon that bailed out of the car on Rose Ave. I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head. So,
And does Haverhill have
They don't
Canines?
have dogs, but
They
that
don't
would be a mutual aid issue. They wouldn't really
Yeah.
be able to come up and use them anyways.
Right. Okay. Do we know over the years, I know it's a tough question to ask right now. You probably weren't ready for it, but over the years, you know how many calls we've had where we've used a canine?
I don't know those stats.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I will say that they had been called, when I was on the school board,
Yeah.
there were several calls to the high school at one point. So I was constantly getting phone calls.
Mhm.
We're sending
Well, I
the
can
dogs in
imagine. I
again.
mean, you could sniff a lot of walkers over there.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember being locked in a classroom and seeing them walk by.
I'm sure you.
Long time ago. It wasn't my locker they were looking at, but
So we'll also be reaching out to the Plastow Exchange Club, and there's another group called, I think it's called PACE, that has approached us about donations as well. So again, not just the businesses in town, not just citizens, we'll be reaching out to others as well. And that doesn't mean if we need 90,000, we get 95, we keep the other 5,000 for any ongoing recurring costs later on down the line, if it's whatever's allowable under finance rules, to keep that fund going for upkeep of the car and for the upkeep of the canine, for the vet bills and whatever else needs to be.
Food, everything.
Yeah.
And you're comfortable taking a dog home every night?
I got dogs of my own. I'm used to it.
Okay.
be nice to see the canine back. Plastow.
Be very useful because, like the chief said too, there's times we've needed a dog too that we don't even bother calling for it because things like reasonable suspicion and probable cause can have an expiration time, and waiting for a dog to get to town to use it for something isn't always worth it. So having it at our fingertips would be very.
I know that Sergeant Porter was pretty busy with his dog while he was here.
Are we gonna wait to pull the trigger on moving forward, and if we know we're getting the grant or not? Or we,
So we hope to have the grant submitted by the end of the week. We just need that one last support letter. We do paper and email submission. We've already been told we're getting it as long as we submit the 3 things we need to submit. So that would be a done thing. And then again, tomorrow the announcement goes out for people who want to be interested in the program. I know of no other than Sergeant Hulu off the top of my head that's interested, but we do offer it up and we do a fair and impartial selection process. He's come forward, done a lot of this stuff in addition to he's done a lot of this research up and on his own, but that's on an automatic win, and we've already talked about that.
so we're guaranteed the 32 and we could get upwards of 50.
Yes, and it's in phases, right? So it's the 1,100 is up to 1,100 a week. So if we only have to fill one shift for the officers in training, then we only need that amount of dollars. If we need 6 shifts filled, and it's only maximum of $1,100. But if you multiply $1,100 times 14 weeks,
10 to 14 weeks, they range.
depends on the holidays and training days in between. And then again, second detection, once they graduate and go on to the next academy, second detection, or second purpose, I'm sorry, is an additional $4,500.
Okay.
Very good.
Anything else that you guys would like to add? Great presentation. Thank you.
All his, did all the work.
Great job.
Hey,
Thank you.
He's putting on the performance.
Anything
Do you
else?
have any other questions about this or my previous presentation?
I just want to say thank you I know I've spoken to you about the SRO a lot. And it's always, safety and health and welfare of the kids at that campus is most important.
And we brought, for the interview panel for the selection of that officer, we brought Superintendent Justin Krieger came in, as well as Mark Pedersen, Director of Secondary Education. He came in as well. The two of them sat there and they brought their perspective, and they were able to get, some buy-in, and they were able to get their input and the feelings of helping with the process. So we just didn't say it was just us. We're going to listen to others as well, particularly those who the officer will be working with.
And I appreciate that. I mean, as a citizen, taxpayer of Plastow, pulling in the other stakeholders. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything more?
Thank you for all. I know it took
Thank
a
you
long
very
time,
much.
but I'd rather be thorough and get all the answers.
We really appreciate you coming in and giving us a update of the PD and all that you've done and all that your workforce has done. So thank you.
All right. Thank you all for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have review of the BOS rules of procedure. I know I had sent out a draft of some proposed changes. Given some comments this evening, I'm going to suggest that we table them for the time being. I feel like, the current procedures we have in place, we haven't really given them time because we're pretty laid back with our public comment approach. So I think utilizing the current procedures that we have since 2019, they've been there, using them for the next few meetings, see how it goes. I don't know if you guys agree, disagree. If you want to move ahead with the changes.
No, I think that's a good idea, because if you're going to make any changes, you want to make sure you take the time and do it right.
Right. So, everyone okay? On board with that? Okay, so we'll table those for the time being. All right, moving on to review of ARPA funds. I'll hand that over to Mr. Colby, the town manager. He has a handout for everyone to review.
Thank you, Mr. DeRoche. Just to recap, on the page in front of you, we're currently looking at a balance left of ARPA funds of approximately $93,000. And just to recap, ARPA is the rescue plan money that came about because of COVID. The town back in 2022 received two payments of $403,892.66 and the second one for 67 cents. So all in all, the town has received a little over $807,000. We have in an interest-bearing account, which to date we have earned a little over $56,000. So it gives us a total amount to spend of just shy right now of $864,000. To that, the board had made commitments and or utilized funds. Back in 2021, $250,000 of this money was used towards the ladder truck to cut down on the amount that was bonded. So, which, as we all know, the ladder truck arrived last week, so it's appropriate. In 2022, the commitment was made to replace two cruisers, which and outfitting them and to the tune of $112,000 and change, which again, as the chief pointed out, I still look at those, I think of them as new cruisers, but they are both approaching 50,000 miles already. So we had used the ARPA funds to help dig us out of a hole, but we are already looking at two cars with close to 50,000 miles. The fire department, we replaced a mechanical ventilator at the time in 2022. And then the highway department, we had put money towards the sidewalk plow of $110,000. So during 22, we had utilized these funds to help supplement and or replace aging equipment to the tune of $245,000. In 2023, we utilized some more towards the fire department, which was the extrication equipment. Also, an IV pump was utilized or bought, utilizing this money. The police department, it helped buy a speed trailer, software upgrades, and a down payment or the purchase of a cruiser. In 2024, the balance of that cruiser was paid for. As well as in 2024, the board committed up to $41,000 for the sign. We have put down a down payment for the message sign out front here of Town Hall of $18,000. Recent meeting as well, the fire department roof, the board also committed $54,995. So there are outstanding commitments currently of $77,360. So Given the amount that's been received, the money that's been earned minus the amount spent, we are left again with $93,000. So
that leaves us with 93,171.88
that's
that we
correct.
have to commit to spend by the end of 2024.
By the end of 2024,
or
yes.
we have to give it back.
Correct.
Okay. And I know there's multiple pages of regulations on what we can utilize these funds for. Can you just maybe give us a quick summary of what we can utilize these funds for?
Yes. In the beginning, the federal government was very stringent with it. It was water, sewer, or broadband. But then I think they realized that there were not a lot of projects to spend that kind of money. So any grants that were doled out under $10 million, a community could take that money. They called it lost revenue. So because of it, and by taking it as lost revenue, it allows a community to spend it basically on any government resource, if you will. So anything that a government can legally spend money on. There were a few exceptions. You can't take the money and put it into a cap reserve fund. You can't pay off debt or put it in what's called a sinking fund. There were some specifics that you couldn't use it for, but none of those would apply to us. So that's why we've been able to use it across, many departments to get as much, utilization and, good use out of the funds.
Okay. And I will say this, our police force, we were really behind on our car replacement program.
That is correct.
Up until that point. So this really helped us get ahead of the program.
To get back.
To be honest, to build this out.
Yeah, it bailed us out. Really caught us up.
With the cruisers, yes. Yes.
So
we're very fortunate.
Yeah, we're very fortunate to have this too.
Right, we didn't have to go to the people of the town, which was big.
It's my understanding this could be used to augment the delta on the Canaan as well.
Possible.
Potentially, yes.
It would fit within that parameter.
Yep, so it's a possibility.
That is a possibility.
Or maybe the antenna system, so that we can get communication from town to town and things like that.
But we may need to be able to have an invoice by then. Or
it is a very, very.
We're going to have to spend the money fairly
Pretty
quickly
quick.
by the end of the year. It's got to say, okay, the communication tower. I don't think it's going to be that quick. I could be wrong.
Well, you could encumber it for that.
Yeah, I don't know how long
Can we
you can
encumber
encumber.
the money?
The commitment it has to be a very solid commitment, not just to be spent in the future. It's got to be a
Designated.
Yeah.
All right. So say the library might want to do something. Could we possibly ask for some type of proposal and maybe put something aside for the library? Is specific and it falls within the guidelines.
I will have to look at what it takes to commit those funds.
All right.
Yes.
I would, and I know that we sat through that thing.
Mhm.
And as much as I would like to help as much as we can, I think there's some much bigger dire needs
Right.
within the town.
Right. Even if we designated a little bit of the ARPA money to the library and look at other needs, but maybe, I just think that
Yeah, I think what we need to do is we need to get a list
of
from what everybody's looking for.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, library wants a specific thing. We got to look at that.
Yep.
We got to look over here. So we got to look and, how we divvy it up. But I mean, 93,000, you can't let that go by the wayside.
Right.
Well, I
You
think
can only dice it so many ways.
right, and I think how we need to look at it is, over the past few years, we've done a lot with police and fire. I think we need to get a list from the different departments.
Absolutely.
And the way I see it is, I look at the signboard. I know that was $40,000, but it's something that I think will benefit the residents that they can see, touch, or feel, like, and maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't agree, but like, something like, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that this is it, like a pickleball court or something that people will be able to utilize that will benefit them. And I know, putting money towards the roof or towards a new police car, it's something they'll see and they'll realize, but maybe it's something that maybe the citizens will be able to use. I know we could, I don't know, send them a gift card, but not sending 7,000 $10 gift cards out isn't going to be a way to realize that money. So it's a way to finding the best use of that remaining funds that will benefit the town.
Well, I think we
Whether it's building a new tower, I don't know how far we're going to stretch $93,000 to build a new tower, but it's finding that best use. So we need to get a list of items and we need to determine the best use of that money.
I almost think we almost have to put a time limit on this now, because we are banging up against the end of the year. I know it's 90 degrees outside right now.
Right.
But the end of the year is coming quick.
Right. Before we know it.
Then you got budget season and everything else coming up.
What the biggest tax savings is to our
Yes.
Right.
town.
Yeah.
And that's with the economics, the way that they are and the way that they're trending, anything that we can save.
Right.
Our fellow Plastonians.
I also-
in their wallet is
We got beat up
something
pretty
that
good last year, so we've got to
Yeah.
try to help out as much as we can.
But I also think what we need to do is when we're asking departments to think about what they want to put on a CIP, what are the things won't qualify for the CIP that we might be able to support through the ARPA funds? I think, the big ticket items and the smaller, we need this, it can't wait, and I can't wait for a warrant article.
Right.
Yeah, I'd like to see a list of what each department had. Give us like the top thing they're looking for.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, and then we'll go from there.
Right,
Where
and
we
that's
can-
what
where we
I
can
have
knock
made
off.
requests from departments, and I do have items, from $500 to many thousands of dollars. So
Because there are certain things, like I know, like with libraries, when that probably couldn't happen until maybe the springtime or something,
Right.
right? Or some other department, but we need to know so we can have that money. Say, okay, this is where the money's going.
yes,
So we need that. So
what
the
is
department heads will need to kind of give us like a cost.
Mhm.
So we're going to need that.
what is a fair time frame that
well,
we
I,
could potentially have a final list?
I mean, I have a department head meeting next Tuesday. I also have the requests from the department heads so far that have put prices to them. I know, Cab, you owed me some numbers, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. You gave me some ideas, but you didn't put numbers to them because you were going on vacation, or did I miss an email?
request from you for that. I asked for guidance on a range of costs that would work with your existing mix of proposals.
And I said, send all costs. So we'll put something together for the next meeting.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So we'll look to shoot
That
for
gives you an
but-
idea of where we're at right now.
But that's a good summary, and
Actually, you know what, the one thing that's nice to see on this, we got 807,000, right, roughly. We also earned an interest of 56,000. So if you look at it, it's actually, more than 807,000. So that's a significant amount of money, 56,000.
so the interest bought us a
interest.
signed one.
Right, basically what it did, right? Plus, so you got to look at that too. So that was a good job doing that, Greg.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on ARPA? Any other questions? Comments? Okay. Moving on. 2025 budget. Mr. Colby.
Well, 2025, we are, again, I mentioned I have department head meeting next Tuesday. At that point in time, I plan on passing out the spreadsheet and the numbers, from 2024 up to date. You do have an expenditure report through July, but we're looking at, handing that out next week with expectation that probably around Labor Day to get the budgets back from department heads, give me time to go through them, sit with department heads and the like as needed, with hopefully a presentation, looking at the potential schedule of selectmen's meetings here, which I probably have buried it somewhere. Sometime the end of September, I would say, the last meeting in September.
Looks like the 23rd.
The 23rd.
Yeah.
That might be a little aggressive, definitely by October 7th, to have full budget,
Okay.
before you folks, end of September, beginning of October. The idea to act on it during the month of October, turning it over to the budget committee around November 1, and then letting them have November, to work through it. And then also while we get started on the rest of the warrant articles, CIP warrant articles, things of that nature, and anything else that the board wants to ask for.
I know we have 2 meetings scheduled for October. Is there a possibility you could possibly need the third to make sure we get it to the budget committee?
Yeah, we could probably.
I mean, we can address that as we get going, right?
Yeah, we can adjust the schedule if we can possibly get it by the 23rd, but if we get it by the 7th, we can always add another meeting in October, and that should give us enough time to go through the 14th and the 21st. It should give us enough time to go through the budget.
And would we be looking to do the joint meeting again like we did last year with budget?
Yeah, what I would do is probably, if we did the initial budget presentation and then probably the following one, we'd do the major budgets and have the budget committee in to do the joint with the big, fire, police.
Yep. The top 5 or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Fire, police, highway.
Highway,
Yep.
and then we could then go from there. Okay. All right, so we can, as the next couple meetings go, we can
fine tune it.
A little more. I know as the year has gone on, do you have any feel for what the budget might look like? Do you have any, you're looking at increases, decreases, level funded?
No.
Okay. Any sense from the board on what the board would like to see for a budget?
Yeah, I think everyone would like to see it stay level. Decrease would be even better.
Yeah, but just throwing it out there. I know you're going to do your work, and
I mean, it is a no frills budget. That is
Yes.
for sure. There's no intention of, adding, all kinds of frills, if you will, to it. So I don't anticipate it being
Right.
a whole lot different than what it is. What you see is what you get. So
when our surplus is less than $300,000 2 years in a row, I don't think we're asking for a ton of money.
exactly.
It's a pretty tight budget, so in my opinion, I'll just say that. So, all right. Anything else, Greg?
No, that'll do.
Any other questions from the board? No? All right. Next up is the schedule. On here, we're continuing with the every other week at this point. So the next set going into September is September 9th, the 23rd, October 7th, October 21st, November 4th, November 18th, and then into December, we're looking at the 2nd, the 16th, and the 30th. And the 30th is there as a placeholder if we need to do any encumbrances. So that's basically what we've come up with the schedule. Anyone have any issues or suggested changes at this point?
I'll just make you aware, the 7th, I will probably be out of the country.
In October? Okay.
You got a laptop? You had a good Dan and Aruba?
You going Epping?
And then in October or November, we can adjust if we need to for the budget, so we'll adjust on the fly there. So as long as everyone's good with those dates? Yes, no?
Yes.
Looks good.
All right. Moving on to consent agenda. We have the accounts payable manifest of August 1st and August 8th, 2024, and draft minutes for July 22nd, 2024. Was there anything else on this, or is that it?
No, small this
That's it.
time.
All right, take a motion for the consent agenda.
Motion made.
Motion by Darrell. Second by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstain. Motion carries 500. All right. Review action item list. We have junior selectmen. We gonna do anything with that at this point?
You know what? I've been reaching out. I've got nothing, but I do know that it's summertime and
Right.
teachers are
Do you want to just table that until September?
sure.
Okay. Transportation program is kind of stagnant at this point. We need to set a meeting with Lori and some of the stakeholders with that. Okay. You just did the ARPA fund detail, so we're gonna move that to probably beginning of September at this point.
Could you combine 3 with number 9?
3 and 9, yes. Yep. Let's see. All right, the volunteerism, I think we've got the webpage up. We just got to start talking about the open house that we were talking about doing. So I'll move that. I'll update the date on that to sometime in early September. Anything on the ribbon cutting for Mount Misery?
I was waiting to get a hold of Jen on that one until after summer rec.
I'd
Okay.
like to be there for that.
Oh, absolutely.
All
Well, I think that's something we should all be there for, right?
Yeah. That's going to be probably September.
And I would think that'd be like a Saturday, something like that would make
Yeah.
the most sense for everyone.
We did the quarterly review. That can be taken off. We'll finalize the town manager's review. I'll touch base with Greg. ARPA can be combined, so I'll move the date out on that. Let's see, unsealed minutes, we'll move that out. The 9/11 ceremony, we are working on it. This year, there's going to be, we're still working on details about that, but it will be more of a smaller ceremony up at the safety complex. So there'll be more details on that coming up at the next meeting. And then the quarterly review. So there's not much more changes at this point. I will be inviting the school board members from Timberlane to a meeting in September at some point. So I'll be reaching out to them just to come
Did they fill the last seat?
give us an update. I
Yes.
believe so.
Who did they fill it with?
Alyssa, I don't know how to say her last name. It's Brian Stack's sister.
Okay.
All right. So that's done. Town manager, report.
All right. In addition to the other things already mentioned, I know we've got paving, highway department, just a few updates. Met with Dan. Dan has got his paving was going to be scheduled for tomorrow because of the rain. It will be postponed until the 13th. He's planning on cleaning out the swales again over at Park. And has line striping if he can get somebody to respond, so that we can get some things done. The fire department roof and the signboard are both in process and scheduled to be done in September, so it'll be a busy month. in your reports, you have the expenditure report through July. Has spent some time last couple of days getting July reconciled and the like. Happy to report, the ambulance money is starting to, come in steadier. We did receive probably in excess of $30,000 to $35,000 in the month of July. So, as expected, as time goes on and the insurance companies, get caught up, we are starting to see a constant flow of money coming in. We did have some software issues with the water billing, so I got an email late today. I think those are finally corrected, so the water billing will go out. Got good news on the Wilder Drive grant. It did make the governor and council meeting for Wednesday, the day after tomorrow. There is also an invite from Executive Counselor Jan Stevens in your folder. She is hosting this particular one, and it's going to be over at the Stockbridge Theater at Pinkerton Academy. So I am planning on attending it. It is 10 o'clock on Wednesday morning. So given the Wilder grant and all the work that's been done on it, I haven't attended one. I would like to, and so I will be, going to that one. But other than that, it's just department head meetings and, day to day busy. So.
Great. Anything for Mr. Colby? Okay. Selectmen's reports. Excuse me. Mr. Britton.
I was there when they delivered the fire truck. That was exciting. It was interesting to see. I didn't realize that the bucket had the Owl's Nest logo for Timberlane High School on it, so I thought that was pretty neat.
Did they let you hit the siren and everything?
No, they wouldn't even let me up in the bucket. I attended a meeting with the COMCOM with Liz as the alternate. And then the CIP for the school, Jay, when is that? I mean, I haven't heard anything.
I sent them your contact information, so
Okay,
there hasn't been any meeting since the initial meeting. So.
okay. And that's about what I got.
Okay. Ms. Costa?
I went and saw the new fire truck. I took some videos, which I'm happy to send out. Conservation Commission, conversation about possible ARPA usage, ARPA funds for developing the land in front of the library. And I think that's it.
Okay. Mr. Coy?
No, I didn't have anything because I was out for one whole week with work. I had to travel. So we could probably bring it up now where we had discussed a little bit. I think what I'd like to start to do is, and I'll, figure out the next day too, probably the second Saturday of every month, basically hold like an office hour at the town hall. Just try to figure out whether to do it 8 to 9, 9 to 10. I don't know what time would be better. Give anyone an opportunity that wants to come in to discuss anything. Good chance I probably won't be able to give answers to everything because obviously it would only be my opinion, not the board's opinion. So the board would have to weigh in on it. But at least, give a feel of what the residents in town are thinking, talking about, and maybe that'll help. At least know what their questions are ahead of time. But I know if I can't make it, I know someone else could fill in.
Yep.
Or if somebody just wants to come in with me as well, but there can't be more than 2 of us there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'd say look for information coming on that. I would say September we'll start it. I definitely wouldn't do the first Saturday because that's Labor Day weekend. So it would be that second Saturday. I don't know what the date is there. I don't know if anyone has a calendar.
I think it's the
We
14th.
probably do have a calendar here, right? Didn't you just hand one out?
Yeah, it's the 14th.
Okay, yeah, so it'd be the 14th. And probably 9 to 10, I would assume is better than 8 to 9, right?
Actually, September 7th is not Labor Day weekend. It starts in August.
Oh, it does? All right, so we'll do September 7th then. So we'll figure that date right there. We'll figure September 7th. We'll look at 9 to 10. And we'll get that posted.
And you'll bring in what, 4 or 5 dozen donuts and a couple of boxes of Joe?
Maybe something stronger.
Oh, this is something. Okay. All right, so Beth, do you think we can get that posted as a reoccurring event?
Sure, so do we want to do the first Saturday of every month then?
Let's say first Saturday of every month. The only time we'll change is say if there happens to be one of those Monday holidays or something like that.
Okay.
And we'll see how it goes.
We want to go with the 9 to 10 right now.
I think 9 to 10 is probably better than 8 to 9.
It's a great idea, Bill. Thank you. And then if you, obviously you can't make it, please reach out to one of us, and I'm sure we'll be happy to sit in for you.
And if anybody wants to join as well, feel free. But we'll do it right in like the lobby downstairs. We'll set up a table there.
All right. Mr. Gifford.
Oh, my committee's in the first 2 weeks, pretty much, so I don't have anything to report. I wasn't able to do it at work. We'll the new fire in, but I'll be there for the push-in.
Okay.
And the push-in is our next meeting, correct?
Yes,
That's
it's at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. on the 19th of
for the
August.
next
And
meeting.
just so everyone knows, I will not be here for the next meeting.
Similar to the ambulance,
I'll
we'll
have
do
my
the
laptop
push-in
with
at
me, though, John, don't
5,
worry.
meeting back here at 6.
And you had a great turnout at your fishing game.
Yeah, I didn't want to really mention that, but it was a great turnout, and it helped 2 different clubs here that in town that
Help a lot of people. Yeah.
So it was a great event.
All right, good. Thank you. For me, I have a budget meeting on the 20th. Waiting to hear if we're going to have a CIP, if that information's been compiled. If we do, I think that's going to be probably the 22nd, I think, somewhere around there. And I wasn't able to be there when the truck came in, but then I went in a few days later. That thing is beautiful. It's nice and shiny, has a nice new car smell. I didn't get to
Ruin it?
I didn't get to ruin it. No. I almost got to ride in it, but it was raining out, so I didn't want to get it all dirty. So, but it's really nice. It's actually 8 feet or 6 feet shorter than the old the other ladder truck, so it fits in everything was in there. I was really surprised to see all the apparatus in the garage all at once. It was pretty packed in there. So
We're going to get 30 years out of that truck.
yeah, we are.
I won't see it, but
So
You never know.
that's
No,
all
I
I have. There is a budget and finance workshop that NHMA is going to be putting on. So if anyone is interested, I do have a calendar of when they're going to be holding those events, and I'm going to share this with the budget committee as well, so that people have an opportunity for some training. This week is the last week of summer recreation, so I hope everyone had a wonderful summer at Summer Rec. We also, the push-in ceremony for the Owl's Nest truck, the ladder truck, will be Monday, August 19th at 5 p.m. at the safety complex, so everyone is welcome to attend that. I'm sure there'll be more notifications of that as we get closer. Plastow Recreation will host a trip to the Fisher Cats baseball game on August 9th, so there's still time for you to register or sign up for that trip. And there also will be 2 more summer concerts left, weather dependent. On 8/7 is Relative Soul. On 8/14 are the Time Bandits. And also, as Mr. Colby mentioned, there's a change in the paving date. It will be done on Tuesday, August 13th, because of some weather. Also, as Mr. Colby mentioned, Janet Stevens will be hosting the Executive Council in Derry. So if anyone wants to attend that, that's at 10 a.m. If you need the details, just reach out to Greg or Beth. And that's it. Any other business? Any non-public?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll adjourn the meeting at, what is it, 7:35? 7:40?
Close enough.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.